See, I told you. Isn't that fun? People who are published in the journal are from all over the state. Well, all over the world, honestly. We have somebody from Czechoslovakia, several people from Canada. In our last journal, we had a Russian gentleman and somebody from Luxembourg and a couple of people from London. It's wonderful to be able to experience this sort of a international flavor. Next up, I'm not exactly sure whether the author of this is, but this is going to be read by our fiction editor, Jan Ryder Newman, and the story is set in Vietnam. And she's going to give us an excerpt from it because it is a full-length short story. And it's just a beautiful piece of work.
This is the first story that I decided to accept. It just happened to be the first one. It's called Mrs. Rossi's Dream, and the author is Khanh. Yesterday I took Mrs. Rossi to Unbound town to see a doctor. She was running a fever. Both mother and daughter were in the doctor's office, and I was there with them as an interpreter. It could be the sun or insect bite, the doctor said. The forest can be a scourge. I translated what the old doctor said. He administered intravenous antibiotic, and Mrs. Rossi rested for a while. When we came out on the street, the forenoon sun was so strong she stood back on the curbside and donned her straw hat. She looked darker now, but not because her face was shaded. She'd gotten peasant's skin from riding day after day in the sampan, then going into the forest. She came here to search for the remains of her son, who was a lieutenant who served in the U.S. Army in 1967, exactly 20 years ago to date. Her crow's feet showed in deep grooves when she squinted to watch a wedding procession going down the street. Standing hunched, hand locked in that of Chi Lan, her Vietnamese adopted daughter, Mrs. Rossi still had that quiet, determined look. I wondered how much longer before those soft blue eyes would lose their dogged expression. Water was receding on the street after a hard rain, and a wind-blown stink came from the waterfront where fish were being sun-dried. Chi Lan pointed toward the procession. "Mom, look." The bride in her long white dress stood before a large puddle of water. The procession stopped. Then the bridegroom and the best man hoisted her up and carried her across the street, not even rolling up their pants legs. The rest followed, sloshing through the water. You could hear everyone laughing. Mrs. Rossi smiled. She looked tired but relaxed. Perhaps being here with her daughter instead of the forest brought her enjoyment. We walked back to where I parked the Peugeot, and the noise the swiftlets made in the bird colonies made her cock her head. Both finding their steps on the rough parts of the incline of the street, where broken pavement was patched with hewed logs of mangrove and date palm, Chi Lan explained to her mother about the chirpings as she held Mrs. Rossi's hand. "This town is a bird town," she said. "They raise swiftlets everywhere and profit from selling their nests. The birds build the nests with threads of their saliva." We stopped at the cafe, also a brothel, and I bought them each a café suadat, the Vietnamese iced coffee with a dash of condensed milk. I knew Chi Lan had told her about the upstairs rooms with red bulb wreathed window shutters in pink because Mrs. Rossi kept looking back. The port was empty of the fishing boats. "Where have they gone?" Mrs. Rossi asked. I told her that after the full moon, all the boats would head out to sea for days. Why after the full moon, she asked. Before that time, I told her, the water was moonlit and fish wouldn't bite the bait, so all the fishermen stayed in town getting drunk day and night, and the brothel was as busy as a soup kitchen. Then, when the moon became a waning crescent, the boats were unmoored, and one by one they left the river port, taking with them the owl's eyes painted on both sides of the bow. Those wakeful eyes, day and night, having longed for the return to the sea.